My name is Eric Christensen. I am the City of Olympia's Water Resources Director. The Olympia Sea Level Rise Response Collaborative is implementing several methods of gathering information on sea level rise. In 2021, the Olympia Sea Level Rise Response Collaborative adopted a work plan, a 5-year work plan that identified projects and investigations that need to take place. In 2022, our intent is to install a tide gauge at the Port of Olympia, initiate a groundwater monitoring program to understand the hydraulic conductivity between tidal elevations and groundwater in downtown, and to also initiate a satellite survey that will help us understand true land subsidence in downtown Olympia. We monitor the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's satellite radar data, which monitors sea level rise throughout the world, but particularly in the Seattle area. And their records currently indicate that sea levels have risen approximately 3 inches since 1990. Land subsidence in Olympia is also an important factor. Data suggests that Olympia is sinking, likely due to a combination of glacial rebound and settling of uncompacted fill, which most of downtown is constructed on. Land subsidence could account for up to 8 inches of sea level rise in Olympia by the end of the century. We have a combination of rising waters and sinking land. The collaborative will also be monitoring groundwater levels in downtown Olympia. We need to investigate how groundwater inland from our shores is hydraulically connected to tidal elevations. And I think the last thing that we need to do is monitor our shoreline, particularly along East Bay. The southern end of East Bay is eroding, and the city is keeping an eye on that, particularly as it pertains to the public path. And then the western shore of East Bay is the Billy Frank Jr. Trail, and that is on port property, and the port is monitoring erosion along those shorelines. One work item in the Olympia Sea Level Rise Response Collaborative's work plan is to have planning documents updated to account for sea level rise as they are updated. This will include things like shoreline master programs, capital facilities plans, utility management plans, transportation master planning, the shoreline master program, the comprehensive plan. So in coming years, as these documents are updated, sea level rise will be taken into account. The City of Olympia has also adopted an ordinance that requires new construction to either be elevated or flood-proofed to an elevation 2 feet above existing flood elevations. The city will continue to look at the code language around flood damage reduction in future years and may modify it to require buildings be elevated 2 feet above and not just flood-proof. We may also be considering certain valves on sewer systems to prevent backup of the sewer in future conditions. But it's something that will be continue to be considered and changed as it be appropriate.
My name is Ron Thomas. I'm the president of Thomas Architecture Studios, and we're located in downtown Olympia in a historic Joseph Wallop designed building, approximately 100 years old. And Our facility is affected by sea level rise, so this issue is very personal. Here in our location at the corner of Columbia and Legion Way, we're actually impacted more by rising waters from Capitol Lake. Our firm has been very fortunate to have the opportunity to design over 25 buildings in downtown Olympia over the last decade. And the issue of sea level rise actually made its way into our land use code, then eventually into our building code, nearly all in the last 5 to 6 years. So I'm probably talking about half a dozen buildings that are now built and another probably 10 projects that are in some form of design or permitting. All are addressing sea level rise to one extent or another. So Olympia is one of the few jurisdictions in the country where it's actually mandated in our building code to have to do this. But there's also design review, so we have to be very clear and very specific with how we're addressing sea level rise with each one of those buildings. So the city is a very good partner on this. They produce very good information along with Lot and Port of Olympia. They know that we address it very early on, and it's part of their pro forma. So when they're figuring out the cost of the building, they just recognize that it has to be addressed. And so in the coming years, decades, you'll see more and more area-wide solutions like that. Our job is to plan. What is the solution? What are we working towards? At least the new buildings that we're designing on the Port Peninsula, they're going to address sea level rise. So the question is there a future for downtown Olympia based on the impacts of sea level rise? My answer, absolutely. There has been over 100 years of investment in downtown Olympia. The fact that we're bringing more and more people down to live in this environment, why? You only have to look out your window. The water, the mountains, our beautiful weather, our great schools. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it because of the quality of our downtown. So if anything, our commitment to being a part of the solution and building a stronger, healthier downtown Olympia, our resolve only gets stronger and stronger.
The Olympia Sea Level Rise Response Plan identifies trigger points at which certain actions will need to be taken to protect downtown Olympia from flooding with sea level rise. These trigger points aren't necessarily set, but they will help us make decisions as to when investments are necessary to protect downtown Olympia. It's very painful to expend money on something that is likely to occur, but it's uncertain in the future. And of course, the municipality and our partners, the Port of Olympia and the Lot Clean Water Alliance, have competing needs for our funding. So we need to make intelligent decisions based on when sea levels rise and not before then. The City of Olympia and its partners plan on getting funding from as many places as we possibly can, particularly the state and federal government. Some of that funding isn't available until land is actually vulnerable to flooding. So we will have to wait until flood elevations change to obtain some of that funding. As the Sea Level Rise Response Plan indicates, it will take a significant investment to protect the downtown Olympia from sea level rise over the next 80 years. We don't plan on expending all of that at one time. We need to make smart investments as sea levels rise that make sense and are affordable, and then plan for the future investments and how they will be paid for. Over the past 2 years, the City of Olympia has completed the installation of 22 tide gates that have already helped keep floodwaters out of low-lying areas at downtown. We recently had a fairly significant flood at Capitol Lake and did not see water in downtown streets, or at least not to the extent that we have in the past. The city is also working on replacing its largest tide gate this summer in collaboration with the Lot Clean Water Alliance. It's a 48-inch diameter flap gate that keeps water from flowing into the lowest lying areas of downtown, particularly near the intersection of 7th and Columbia Street. That tide gate will be installed this summer. It will need to be installed at extreme low tides, so the timing is imperative to happen probably in June. That tide gate we refer to as the Fiddlehead Tide Gate. It discharges at the Fiddlehead Marina. The city also has a current project that will be flood-proofing our Water Street sewer lift station. That is the city's largest sewer lift station. It's located very close to the Olympia Center. We will be extending the walls up. We will be elevating the generator so it is not vulnerable to sea level rise, and we will also be sealing doors for potential flood events. On a regular basis, and at least annually, the City of Olympia collaborates with the Department of Enterprise Services and the Lot Clean Water Alliance to discuss and further develop emergency response planning efforts. This is important, particularly around Capitol Lake, where water levels can escape the lake and enter the streets and potentially enter the sewer conveyance system that takes wastewater to the Lot Clean Water Alliance's Bud Inlet treatment plant. Floodwaters from either Capitol Lake or marine waters could overwhelm the capacity of the Bud Inlet treatment plant and could potentially hinder the biologic activity in the plant, rendering it inoperable. It's imperative that we protect the Bud Inlet treatment plant from floodwaters to prevent overflows of sewage.
One of the reasons I located here is because it is right on the water, and it's a very lovely location. From my office window, I can see the boats coming in and out. Well, I guess I hope that our leaders in the city and the port have been on top of that, and that our taxes are, appropriately calibrated to take that into account. I'm totally willing to pay for that, and I think it's a city and government responsibility.